Sector 404. About the author. This book was created by Dylan Herbert, who has created and written 13 other titles. These titles include Jingleman Volume 1, Dearly Beloved Volume 1, Sergio, Even Lilies Weep, The Vent People, Mr. Goosehead, The Brothel of Redcraft. This title, Sector 404, is Dylan's 14th book. This is separated into books as you enter the world after Detective Robbie Clark has been long gone. All works by Dylan thus far relate to each book, diving deeper to create a world of horror as you learn more of the world of the Websters, Detective Wayne Clark, the Wayward, Earth, and those affected by the various characters. You will be captivated as you go down this rabbit hole. A Captain Sherry Evans is put under arrest for her crimes of illegal activities and harboring known criminals on the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. Earth is gone, and no human can survive on its surface. So mankind fled to space, with the remaining 1 million that were left.
As she is waiting in a cold, dark cell for her trial before a judge.
Known as the Prime Baron, the criminals known as the Morbus Impiorum Twins escape. A brother and sister carry the P2i-Q Virus, which infects those of specific blood types. The virus is a flesh-eating bacteria that also attacks the autoimmune system, erodes blood, destroys the nervous system, causes a fungus that coils around the heart, eventually causing death. The virus is highly contagious. The virus soon causes the death of the Prime Baron and other important figures. The human population soon find out that Captain Sherry Evans holds the key for a cure, and they give her a choice: either save humanity or be locked away forever. What will she do? All works by Dylan Herbert are based on experiences he has had in his lifetime, and most characters describe people he has met. Although the stories are exaggerated, there are still true experiences he has had during his lifetime or experiences others have told to him. This title is completely fictional and does not relate to real-life experiences. In 2022, Dylan began this journey. This is the 14th book. Sector 404 is its own story. However, it gradually is connected to the other books. You only need to have basic knowledge of other characters who were introduced in his previous books. This book introduces new characters to the series. This book can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Wattpad, Amazon, Apple iBooks, and Goodreads. Thanks for reading. Chapter 1, The Last Stand.
Captain Evans, you are under arrest for illegal entry into the Melpian sector. Under Space Travel Law, Chapter 3, Section B, your spacecraft will be seized along with your crew. You will be detained and stand before the Prime Baron, who will judge you. All aircraft privileges will be revoked until further notice by the Citadel Warden Helios. Do not resist, or you will meet your end here.
A Commander Tamar says to me, I was wanted in the Milky Way galaxy for the crimes of leaving the Hagar Citadel of New Earth and harboring fugitives. You see, in the year 2205, Earth had been laid barren, and no human life remained on the planet that once harbored the entire human race, according to the Prime Baron Chandelier Helios. My name is Captain Sherry J. Evans, and I was once a beloved sky jumper of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. I flew the magnificent R640P Magnum Opus, a spacecraft with no equal. It was big, and its purpose was to carry prominent figures, import resources to keep the human race alive, and give information about space itself. The days of fighting against the Wayward were long gone. We heard of stories of how Robbie Clark, known as the Ragged Robin, saved us from destruction. However, mankind soon forgot about our once-beloved hero, and we, as the human race, fell from grace. Thus, by the year 2200, humanity was on the verge of extinction. No human could survive on the planet, and we left to the sky. 1 million people escaped to space, and thus the human race was spared. However, the laws enforced by the Helios family were strict. All illegal activities by citizens were a capital offense. 3 offenses within a calendar year would result in the death penalty. 2 offenses would mean you have to stand before a judge who would determine your fate. One offense would mean your food rations would be cut off for 3 days. It did not matter how old you were, male or female, young or old. An offense was an offense. The Hagar Citadel New Earth was a floating ship which housed the entire human race. A spacecraft that was 633.72 trillion square feet, essentially the size of 6 United States combined. The hierarchy was as follows. The Partisium, which was the leader of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth, ruler of the entire human race. They created laws and sanctioned space voyages. The Prime Baron enforced all laws and chose the final judgment for all offenders. The advisor of the Partisium and controlled the military force of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. The Duexium Senate, a group of 35 members who foresaw security of all 4 areas of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. Helios Anigium, a collective group that researched new planets, studied ecology, developed innovative technology, and enforced the lower laws. Also, in charge of protecting the population against sickness. Laws were divided into 2 categories, the upper and lower laws. Lower laws were laws that, if broken, you could pay a fine to not attain an offense. Lower laws were things such as skipping curfew for minors, lying, cheating, getting caught in an affair with a higher sector than you, and minor offenses like that. Upper laws, you would stand before the Prime Baron, and they would decide if you were innocent or guilty. These 4 areas included the Helios sector, upper levels where the archives of the history of the human race resided, known as the Archives of Helios, home of Partisium, Prime Baron, and Duexium Senate. The Magnum Hydrenian sector, upper levels that housed schools, education, and training. The Meplian sector, mid-levels that housed the 12 artifacts of the Wayward, the Museum of Vonda Vonda, the Book of the Dark Arts, Forbidden Knowledge, the Archives of Helios, and the Prison for the Criminally Insane. The Kugerlium sector, known as Sector 404, which housed regular citizens of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth, the prison for offenders, shops, clubs, and where most citizens lived. Life on the Hagar Citadel of New Earth was strict, and there were so many rules that all citizens must obey. The only ones who benefited from this were those who held power. After Commander Tamar reads me my rights, 3 Helios soldiers arrest me, and I'm thrown in a cell. The floor was cold. I could only hear the sound of water dripping, and I lay silent, wondering my fate. They stripped me of my captain title, and now I wait. I dozed off for a bit, and when I woke up, I heard an alarm, Helios soldiers running and screaming.
Lock down the Melpian sector! Inmate 89033 and inmate 89034 have escaped! I repeat, Serenity and Gunilios have escaped!
What was going on? How did these 2 escape? You see, these 2 inmates were the results of the Webster and Redcraft bloodlines being mixed, an abomination and a threat to the human race. The Partisium, the Prime Baron, the Duexium Senate, the Helios Anigium, and other lesser powers, such as the Warden of Helios, deemed the twin siblings a threat. Whether it was out of fear or because of the sins of their bloodline, nobody knew. These were the grandchildren of Dr. Noah Webster and Vivi Redcraft, a diabolical mix. These kids were sent to prison not because they did anything wrong, but because their bodies housed the P2i-Q Virus, a flesh-eating bacteria that first would attack the autoimmune system of the body, then would erode red blood cells, and eventually the nervous system. During the last stage, it would create a fungus that coiled around the heart, and the infected person would lose the ability for their hearts to pump blood. This virus was very contagious and was passed by bodily fluids, contact, and genes. People with blood types A, B, and AB got infected the easiest. Those who had O blood type could catch it, but had more immunity towards the virus. However, some citizens of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth grew a blood mutation referred to as blood type CRPA and CRPB. CRP was short for carbon ray plasma, a mutation contracted by those who worked on the exterior of the Hagar Citadel. They were exposed to space's harsh radiation and elements. The differences between CRPA and CRPB were similar but yet different. CRPA blood types could metabolize food faster, however often had less energy, they suffered from more autoimmune system illnesses, and vertigo. But they had higher IQs and could live up to 200 years. In addition, they gained the ability of telekinesis. CRPB blood types were similar to CRPA, but they were vastly stronger and more durable than average humans. They could manipulate fire with their minds, which was called pyrokinesis. I was always sick as a little girl. I often had spells of fainting and ended up in the Citadel's infirmary or hospital. Life was really hard, but I pushed through. I had both blood types, CRPA and CRPB. My mother always told me to hide it, for she was afraid that the Evon Duexium Senate and Helios Angium would lock me away forever. My mother and father were always nice to me. However, fate dealt them bad luck, for they now were locked up in the Cougarlium sector. The prison there was called the Cougaralium camp. Here people were forced to mine asteroids for minerals to serve the needs of the Partisium. Prisoners here worked 16 hours a day, and life for them was miserable. Living for them was not sunshine and rainbows. The people of the Cougarlium sector believed that the prisoners there were treated right, for when news reporters came through, it was all an act. They had dining halls, big living quarters, and a splendid life. But when they left, it was back to living like dirt. The crime my parents committed was harboring a young boy who had run away from his father. The boy was part of the upper sector, the Melpian sector, and his father was Norn Duexium. You see, all political powers came from the families that came from Earth. Their bloodline ruled life in space and held justice to a high standard. They reinforced these laws. There needed to be a change, but now that didn't matter, for we would be wiped out by the P2i-Q virus. Just then someone runs up to my cell. It's your lucky day, Sherry Evans, since you are the only one with vast medical knowledge and a former outstanding citizen. Prime Baron Chandelier Helios has ordered you to meet him right away. You are coming to the upper levels to speak with him. It must be your lucky day. I'm not sure why some of the Helios soldiers have abandoned their post, but I will take care of them, Commander Tamar said to me. All of a sudden, the red lights came on. The backup lights would come on if there was a malfunction. We hear screams of pain and a soldier coming towards Commander Tamar and I. His helmet visor was shattered, and he had boils on his face. He was coughing up blood and screaming for help. He eventually died, and a weird-looking plant was protruding out of his chest. The plant would later be called Darwin's Rose. This was the virus. It took the lives of many, but this would be only the beginning.
Evans, we need to get out of here. We need to find a way to the upper sectors and warn the Prime Baron of what is going on. We need to—
Just then, Commander Tamar stopped speaking because it was there we saw them. The Morbus Impiorum Twins. At first glance, they seemed just like harmless, scared kids. However, years of being in the Melpian sector had changed these children. Deep within its doors, at its core, within this sector had a prison that housed the worst criminals. This prison was called the Halls of Adjacent Crowned Magnius. This prison had 100 floors, and on level 1 these children lived. No light kissed their skin. They were fed through tubes and were chained like monsters. They were tired and treated differently because they were deemed dangerous. I had never seen a human who had white irises before, but they had the eyes of angels. Even with their beauty, a sadness in their eyes could be seen and purple veins on their necks visible. So this was what people who held the P2i-Q virus looked like. Hello, you two. It's okay, we won't hurt you. I know you are simply scared, but the illness within you infects everyone else. We have to get you somewhere safe. I am Sherry Evans. I won't hurt you, sweetheart, I tell the two siblings. I may have gotten through to them, but Commander Tamar messed up, for she had grabbed her Fulgor Virga 9AV, which was a pistol that shot electricity and decapitated people. It was used as a non-lethal means. The Partisium lawed it a punishable Citadel crime if one used lethal means without the presence of at least 2 members of the Evon Duexium Senate. So Serenity was hit with this weapon and instantly passed out, for she lay unconscious. Commander Tamar aimed her weapon at the boy called Gunilios. The boy did not share the same sympathy as his sister. He did not understand why they were treated differently just because of the colors of their eyes or their bloodlines. Gunilios waved his hand in the air, and the Fulgur Virga 9av that Commander Tamar had been holding was now floating in the air. As I look closer, I see a green-like aura around the boy's body. We could hear the weapon reloading as he shot a bolt of electricity at Commander Tamar. She quickly lay unconscious, and it was only me and him. Our eyes locked in a death stare. I felt my back dripping with sweat, and my knees began to lock. This weapon wouldn't kill me, but I still felt a fear I had not felt in a while. My vertigo was kicking in as I felt weak and ill. What should I do? How would I make it through? As it would seem, only words of kindness would reach this young child. This was before I knew of the powers that lay dormant in my body. My blood not only caused me to be sick, but it gave me the key to change my destiny. However, this was the stand I took. I had never fought so hard for myself till this day. As a little girl, I was terrified about what the Prime Baron would do to me if I ever broke the laws. I was terrified when my parents were deemed traitors and criminals, and now I was terrified, for I did not know what my fate would be. My name is Sherry Evans, a former skyjumper, and this is the story of Sector 404, a tale of how a nobody led people to freedom. This is how we broke away from the cage we were in. No longer would we fear the Helios family, for I would unite us all under one banner. There were many casualties, but we eventually made it through. Chapter 2. The Virus of Helios. In the year 2200, we, as the human race, lost our planet Earth. As a species, we survived 4.76 billion years on this planet, according to the Earth's radiometric dating scale. In the beginning, our planet was beautiful and vast. All united, a people filled with love and unity until we sought refuge amongst the stars. As time passed, we started wars, and the destruction of our planet began. By the 21st century in 2026, we had almost destroyed our homes. However, humans refused to die, and thus, we survived till 2200. It's been 5 years since that day we fled on spacecrafts and arrived at our new home. 100 spacecrafts were launched to save the human race with 1 million souls on board. However, when Gloria's comet arrived in the Milky Way galaxy, it created a Magenium hole, which sucked up 80 of our sister spaceships. The human race soon only had 20 million humans left. Thus, for an entire year, we tried to pick up the pieces of our battle. We fought amongst ourselves about laws, justice, and the reproduction of the human race. What planet would we call home? Would we ever overcome this fate? Who could we trust, for all people who were in power just were selfish and would no doubt be the fall of our entire species? Many people died in this space conflict, and soon only 5 spacecrafts remained. It was under the leadership of Justin Helios Clark that we all united and all ships joined each other to make the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. Some days it feels like we are aimlessly drifting in space. However, soon Justin Helios passed away because he contracted the P2i-Q virus. Its origins were due to 2 infants. We would later find out it was thanks to the Helios Anigium, for they demanded that all citizens be checked for abnormalities. Weekly health checks, wellness checks, blood tests, and checking for mutation of our DNA were soon standard procedures. Nurse Nancy, we have 2 infants, and they are going off the charts. Something strange is going on with their tests, another nurse says. The 2 infants were found to have a strange type of bacteria in their bodies. Within, they held what would soon become the P2i-Q virus. Serenity and Gunilios were the grandchildren of the infamous Dr. Noah Webster and Vivi Redcraft. Their parents were not known, but it was shocking they were regular people, and that the madness of their bloodline had not affected them. How the twins arrived on the Hagar Citadel of New Earth is a mystery. However, soon the twins would be locked in prison, for we had all heard of the stories of Dr. Webster, and some of our great-grandparents even witnessed him. The Helios Anigium got the approval of the Partesium, who locked away the twins. The twins had little human contact and were taught by the strictness of the Helios soldiers, bred to be monsters, warriors, and weapons of the even Duexium Senate. Serenity was a nice girl with darker skin. On Earth, she would be considered to be of African descent. However, the late Partesium, Justin Helios Clark, would soon get rid of all races and unite us as one race, mankind. Even though they carried the deadly P2i-Q virus, they showed signs of faster regeneration, higher levels of intelligence, and other factors that could be deemed useful. Gunilios had pale white skin, like the snow, and his strength was mind-blowing. Not only his physical strength, but also his mind was far more limitless even as a young child. Serenity always found good in people, and she held on to light and hope. No doubt it was because they had a Helios soldier who took pity on the children. That soldier was named Coliana Richards. She taught the children the Citadel's history, laws, sectors, manners, and so much more. Serenity said that everyone would one day be truly united, and that the various groups of the Citadel would no longer govern humanity. She tried to convince her brother that every person wasn't bad, but the way the corrupt Prime Baron treated them clouded his mind. "Hey, Coliana, we missed you so much," Serenity says to Sergeant Coliana Richards. Coliana Richards was a Helios soldier. All Helios soldiers were part of the even Duexium Senate. All firstborn children were sent to school to become Helios soldiers or Duexium security. The study was rigid and harsh. From dusk to sunset, they were trained in the history of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth, how to use weapons, hand-to-hand combat, laws that governed space, and much more. Gunilios told his sister to speak for herself, for he did not miss her. He loathed all people for treating them lesser than animals. The twins had beautiful white eyes and platinum hair. The veins visible in humans were a deep, dark purple and visible on their bodies. The twins were locked up by Norn Duexium, who had control of prisons and places of security importance. Once a month he would visit the twins and remind them they were dogs. Talking down to them, but never coming inside their cell, for the virus was highly contagious. So how did Sergeant Coliana Richards survive being exposed to the virus? Well, that was simple. She had the blood type, CRPA. Those who possessed the CRP blood type were immune to the virus. Sergeant Coliana Richards was also the first to figure out the powers that came with this new blood type. She soon trained and taught the Morbus Impiorum Twins, Serenity and Gunilios. I spoke to the young Gunilios. "I will not hurt you, sweetheart. The very people who locked you away for merely existing were the same people who locked my parents away for merely looking after a runaway child. These same people threw me into a cold, dark, terrifying cell for saving people from the fate of slavery. I know, Gunilios, that you are scared and just want your sister to be safe, so please run as far as your legs will take you. I have been summoned to speak with Prime Baron Chandelier Helios. I want to voice my concerns and give people hope." Gunilios stared at me for a while, and then left into the shadowy halls of the prison. It was soon later that I would find out what criminals lay in this cruel dungeon. However, now that Serenity and Gunilios had escaped, they risked infecting the entire population. Gunilios carried his unconscious sister, and they fled down the hall. This hall was known as the Halls of Adjacent Crowned Magnius, a vast prison made to keep things inside. The Halls of Adjacent Crowned Magnius was vast and huge, and the only exit was on floor 1. We were on floor 100. It would be a fight through hell, not for the powers of the Citadel, for Commander Tamar would be with me, but for the infected. I had medical experience, for I was a former Helios soldier and lead medic when I served on the R640P Magnum Opus. It was there I later became the captain and met my husband, Alexander Q. Evans. Alexander was on an expedition to find a water source for our Citadel. I miss him so much, but in my heart, I knew that one day I would embrace him again. However, things would soon take a dark plunge before I could see hope. Soon after this ordeal, Commander Tamar woke up, but her head was throbbing, or so she told me. She told me there was a sharp pain in the back of her head. I tell Commander Tamar that it's because of what Gunilios did. We had no time to waste, so we left to find the Prime Baron. We needed to escape this prison and make it to the Helios sector. We would have a long journey ahead of us, for we were in the Melpian sector. Chapter 3. Bloodlines of Tyranny. Before I tell you of the horrors we witnessed in the halls of adjacent Crowned Magnius, let me tell you of the vast history of the human race after the Hagar Citadel of New Earth was established. Families and bloodlines ruled the entire remaining human race. The Particium ruled the Citadel, and all other powers knew that the voice of the Particium was final. One could never question the Particium, for he was essentially the king. The Partisiums were of the Helios bloodline. The first Partisium was Justin Helios Clark, the son of Earth's last hero, the Ragged Robin. The Partisium saved us from the battle we fought due to lack of resources, corruption, and death. Partium Justin Helios spoke to the hearts of the human race. In 2201, the remaining ships became the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. The countless ships that fled from Earth to space eventually united under one banner, and it was during this time that humans would finally be united in peace and love, or so it would seem. During the battle, known as the Helios and Dibacorium War, humans went from 20 million to a population of 1 million. This story was documented and kept in the hidden archives in the Melpian sector. The Archives of Helios, a library, contains the entire world history. It housed information about Earth, the Wayward, and even the Citadel. The Milky Way galaxy was vast, and even the Wayward resided in our galaxy. There was a pocket behind the sun, and inside this pocket, the Wayward existed. The Wayward seemed like a made-up place that one could only have nightmares of. In the depths of space, two factions faced off against each other in a battle that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. It was after we fled a dying Earth in 2200. This battle would last an entire calendar year. The first faction was the group that formed the Helios United Centurium, countries that later formed a single movement. They had but one direction, which was to find a new home and live peaceful lives. But Justin Helios knew order would need to be established before this could be a reality. The second faction was the Dibacorium Union, a ruthless and powerful force that sought to conquer and dominate all who stood in their way. They wanted to steal resources so those in power could benefit the most. Their leader was Danny Dibacorium. Danny used people to benefit him. He killed off those deemed as useless. The old, the woman, the children, and the men who didn't perform above and beyond. He had dreams of using the artifacts of the 12, which were in Justin Helios's possession. The Dibacorium Union would later be known as the second family of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth, the Duexium. Danny Dibacorium's daughters would soon change their last names, for the name Dibacorium was outlawed, and all those who held that name were locked away in the Melpian sector by the laws Justin Helios established. Danny Dibacorium's daughters would soon be in charge of security operations on the Citadel. His daughters had a charm about them that one could not tell they were devils. Danny Dibacorium was my uncle, and later I would find that his oldest daughter, Annie P. Duexium, was my cousin. Annie P. Duexium was cunning and intelligent. She had a close relationship with the first Partisium. After the battle, when they led a mission to capture and imprison Danny, she was found in a room with her mother and sister, who seemed afraid. Annie's sister was Amanda C. Duexium, just as manipulative as her sister. However, Danny's mother did not share the same luck as her daughters, for she was locked up with her husband. It was a story every citizen of the Citadel knew about. I was born on Earth inside a bunker and didn't know of my family's history until much later. My mother married my father, and thus, her last name changed. The battle began with a barrage of lasers, plasma beams, and other energy ammunition fire as both factions launched their ships into the fray. Loud noises could be heard, and fear began to set in. The Helios United Centaurium did not want violence, but they had to unite the people at any cost. It was then the first Partesium made his choice. He used the anti-regulator's Philosopher's Stone against his enemy. He would not let the human race be corrupted by greed, for that was the very reason it had fallen to begin with. What the human race needed was power to survive. The human race could not give up, for they had survived the fall of the Earth itself. Danny Diabricorium had told the other ships, colonies, and groups that people were mere tools to be used as he saw fit. He held human life to no value, and he would do anything to obtain his goal, which was to find a new planet and announce to the universe his dominance. Danny shared the same mindset and values as his great-grandfather, Billy Joe Jones, known as Big Belly Joe, or BJ, who was the Ragged Robin's enemy for decades. The sound of explosions and the screeching of metal echoed through space as the two sides clashed. Countless casualties on both sides were imminent. The Dibacorium Union was massive and heavily armed, with weapons that could tear apart entire fleets with ease. But the Helios United Centaurium was not to be underestimated, as their ships were nimble and heavily shielded, capable of dodging the enemy's attacks while dealing damage of their own. Justin Helios had developed a shield that could block any direct fire. He saw the collapse happening and the shift of Danny Dibacorium, who was just a mere power-hungry beast. Justin had foreseen this outcome and was prepared. The battle raged on for hours, then weeks, then a year later with neither side gaining a clear advantage. Ships exploded left and right, their debris scattered across the battlefield. A sense of desperation filled the air as both factions knew that the outcome of the battle would determine the fate of the galaxy. But then, something unexpected happened. Justin finally used the anti-regulator Philosopher's Stone. This was a device, or more like a book, which could grant you wishes. The reason Justin Helios hadn't used it till now was because it drove men to madness, and it took time to work. Those who did not hold the bloodline of the Websters could not use this book unless they were a descendant of the Wayward. Robbie Wayne Clark, who was known as the Ragged Robin, was a descendant of the Wayward, and Robbie was the father of Justin Helios. As he used this, he remembers a conversation with his father to not ever use it, for it was created by Sergio Webster, and it had repercussions. However, Justin had no time to dwell on that. A huge black hole came and ripped off the wings of Danny's craft. Justin finally swooped on him and captured the tyrant, and thus, mankind was saved again. The archives of Helios told of the day mankind was united under Justin Helios.
Your spacecraft, the J-40 Raven, has been subdued, Danny. Your residents can surrender, and all those who resist will meet the same fate I will extend to all Dibacoriums. On this day, September 3rd, 2201, we claim victory and will merge all ships into one. We will call this the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. Peace to mankind is finally here.
The first Partesium, Justin Helios said. Finally, the people were united, and those in charge would be trusted people who were adopted by Justin. They all shared the last name Helios. Justin Helios Clark soon dropped his family's name of Clark and replaced it with Helios. For diversity, he allowed the two girls whom he had found to become head of all security operations. Thus, the Evon Duexium family later established the Evon Duexium Senate. The Evon Duexium sisters got close to the Partesium over time, and by 2203, hierarchy was established. They broke up into roles of power, sectors that determined where people lived based on status. This was a false sense of freedom, and soon, anything deemed as a threat to the Partesium was punishable by Prime Minister Baron Chandier Helios. The anti-regulator Philosopher's Stone was slowly warping Justin's mind. You see, even after he united all, he was approachable, kind, and loved all who were part of the Citadel. However, whether it was because of the sisters who knew he had a soft spot for them or the book itself, the man who united us all would soon become heartless and dark. We became birds in a cage, trapped into false freedom, and doomed to lives as slaves. Now you know the story of the powers of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. I, former captain and sky jumper Sherry Evans, must escape the halls of adjacent crowned Magnus. With the aid of Commander Tamar, would we escape this dungeon? Only time will tell. The things I witnessed sent shivers down my spine. Chapter 4: The Sky Jumper. You may have your own idea of prisoners, but these halls that housed people deemed a danger to society were different. The rooms were small, for they only had a toilet, sink, and bed. Books were authorized to inmates who were on good behavior. There was a monitor where they could request literature, books, and other forms of reading. The only person who could authorize this was the warden of Helios. You would have to submit a form, and most times this would take up to 4 months. The warden of Helios was a man who showed no sympathy and would instill fear in the hearts of these doomed souls. Warden Stan Helios was a vile man, corrupted through the years by the anti-regulator's Philosopher's Stone. You see, once that book was opened, it infected the minds of those who held it. If the person who used it had kids, their kids would also be affected. Physical contact was also the catalyst to infect the minds of others. Whatever the will of the user was, that was what happened. Thus, every person in power shared the same madness. The anti-regulator's Philosopher's Stone was called the Book of Sergio. Stan was the sickest man I had ever come across. A man in appearance, a demon from within. He was deemed as mentally unstable, and if he did not hold a seat of power, he would have been placed in the nexus of Heligemion, the mental institution for those deemed as mentally unstable. Stan was tall, a queer, and often preyed on children and women. Since this was illegal to do outside the Meplean sector, he did it in the halls of the adjacent crown. I would soon meet him. As I am walking to the elevator that would take us down to floor 1, the elevator door opens. It was a Helios soldier who had lost his mind. The elevator opens, and we see a man who is screaming in pain. His face had boils on it, and on his neck, purple veins were visible. His eyes were red, and he was digging his nails through his skin.
"Get it off! Get it off! Help me! I can't breathe!"
the man said as he screamed. Commander Tamar and I step back. Commander Tamar soon tells the man to calm down. He was infected, and if he stepped any closer, she would have no choice but to use force to make him stop. The soldier had contracted the virus, no doubt from the twins. The man then runs to the elevator and bashes his head on the door itself. It was as if he had lost all reason. The virus didn't make you go insane or anything, but the pain from it all as your heart failed would drive any person to the edge. The man finally stops and speaks.
"I don't want to die, Commander. I have 3 children that need me,"
he said with tears in his eyes, for he had taken off his helmet. Commander Tamar felt for this Helios soldier, for she knew him. He was a good guy, and she had spent the last 3 years training him.
I understand, soldier. You have done a good job, and I promise I will take care of your children, but I know in my heart that you will survive this,
she said to him. So, Commander Tamar wasn't such a bad person. She probably just put on an act, for all Helios soldiers were supposed to be tough and show no emotion no matter what. Her own soldier was dying from this insidious virus, and there was nothing she could do but watch and wait. The man started panicking again, for he could not breathe, and it was then he headbutted the elevator's door. When he did this, the elevator caught on fire, and there was soon an explosion. The soldier lay dead moments later. It was a terrible sight, but now we had to take the steps. So we took the steps down to floor 1. Each floor had 60 steps. It was a long journey to the bottom level. Would we make it to the bottom levels unscathed? If I only knew of the horrors I would witness, maybe I would have picked a different path. I woke up in a dark room. My head was pounding, and I couldn't remember how I got there. The last thing I remember is Commander Tamar and I walking down the stairs. Everything was okay until we reached floor 92. I thought it strange that from floors 99 to 93, nothing even happened. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I realized I was in a small cell with only one door. The room was white and only had a toilet, sink, and bed. I tried the handle, but a jolt of electricity went through my entire body, and then I felt a sharp pain course my whole body. Suddenly I heard scratching, footsteps, and laughter from the other side of the door. The door had no window, glass, or anything to peer out of. I backed away from the door as it opened, but nobody was there. I waited a few moments, then walked to the door. The door closed behind me when I walked through, and an identical room appeared. It looked the same at first glance, but the sink was closer to the toilet in this room than in the last room. I heard the same sounds before, and the door opened again. It was the same when I went through this room, but the bed was turned sideways this time. I was in a never-ending loop, and my vertigo was kicking in. "Commander Tamar, where are you?" I scream, but I hear nothing, only silence. I soon saw this door open, and finally, I glimpsed a man with a menacing look in his eyes. He grabbed me by the arm and dragged me out of the cell. His name was Stan Helios. I soon found myself in a large, dimly lit room filled with other people who looked just as scared. When my eyes adjusted to it all, I recognized one person, Commander Tamar. We were all prisoners, and our captor was the warden of Helios himself, who was a ruthless man who enjoyed chasing and obliterating humans for sport. Stan Helios did not try to find out who any of us were, and he said he wanted to have fun with us. However, he would soon regret this. On the small table in front of us were strange items, a lighter, a pen, and a glove. I felt my vertigo kicking in, and I thought I would faint. In my head, I thought about turning the flames in the lighter into a weapon as I reached out my hand. To my surprise, the fire came to me. This was the first time I used pyrokinesis. I thought I had lost all sense of reality. I manipulated the flames and burned the face of Stan Helios. Stan screamed in pain before running out the door. Commander Tamar just stared at me with shock. I knew I had to escape before he came for me. I started to look for a way out, but there was only one way out of here through the door, and no doubt the warden was behind that door waiting for me. As time passed, I got a dark, sinking feeling that this would end us. I don't know if it was minutes, days, or weeks. I had almost given up hope of ever leaving. But later on, as I experimented with my newly found powers, I shot a blast of fire outside the room. I hadn't heard any screams of pain. And thus, we all try to flee from this room. We finally come across an exit. The stairs, but inside the cell next to the stairs, we see a cell door open, and someone comes out. The man who came out had long white hair. He seemed tall and attacked us. We had no weapons, and the lighter fluid in the lighter soon ran out. I had nothing to save me now. What would I do? Then a woman, one of the captured people, stepped forward and put her hand out. The mysterious man flew down the hall. She had the same green-like aura that Gunilios had. I was confused but glad she had helped. The lady introduces herself as Sergeant Coliana Richards. I soon escaped this floor with Sergeant Coliana Richards, Commander Tamar, Dustin Hartbach, Corporal Daquan Jones, and Kelly Reinborn. I would soon find out that the warden of Helios used a gas agent to immobilize me and thus later try to attack me. We would finally encounter him on floor 1 later on. I ran as fast as I could, not looking back until I was far enough away to feel safe. There were so many flights of stairs. I was exhausted, but we kept running until we finally reached floor 3. What greeted us here was a mass of Helios soldiers who were all infected. I knew instantly we had to either fight our way through them, or this would be the place where we died. Screams of pain could be heard throughout the hallway, and then they spotted us. There was no time for thinking, for we ran and ran. Sergeant Coliana Richards told me I could create fire and manipulate it with just about anything.
Reach your arm out and feel for the element of fire. Anything that warms your body when your hand is facing that direction. You have to feel it in your soul. Using these talents causes your illness or disease to get worse. I am on the verge of passing out, so we are counting on you,
she said. I reached my arm out and felt for the light fixtures and used that to create a wall of fire. It soon burned the soldiers who were now running at me. They were in pain, but military training had taught them that they must stop any threat to the Great Partesium, Great Baron, even Duexium Senate, and Helios Anigium. We were fighting and fighting until we finally made it. Somehow we survived this ordeal and made it to floor 1. The closer we got to floor 1, the more we felt a wave of anxiety hit us. It was there that the Warden of Helios was waiting for us. We were ready to fight him, but we all were tired and on the verge of collapse when I saw it. A window. You see, the halls of adjacent Crowned Magnius had about 150 stairs from outside to the entrance, a fall of about 17 meters. I was once a sky jumper, and now I know what I have to do. I activated the gravity boots I had on. To activate them, one just clicked the heel onto the other boot. You could control the gravity of your body with this. A handy tool for sticky situations, and I told the rest of them to grab each other's hands and form a circle. We would have to jump. There was no time, for this man was getting closer and closer, and we were all on the verge of collapse for all, but Commander Tamar had the CRP blood type. We jumped and accepted our fate. However, we landed safely on the ground due to my expertise in sky jumping. All that training and real-life experience paid off. My husband, Alexander Evans, taught me how to be a sky jumper, which was a lost art. We were outside the prison, and now we would all go to the Helios sector. By this time, Commander Tamar had changed her views. She was slowly seeing how the world really was and how people were actually treated. The Partesium did not care about them, for the soldiers she had known for years perished, and they did not even try to do anything. The second Partesium was Jared Helios, and he was a far more dangerous man than his predecessor. Chapter 5. The Baron and the Twins. The days were lonely for Luna Magnium Bristol, who was the Prime Baron's wife. Her title was Baroness, and she just wanted to see her husband because she missed him so. Prime Baron Chandelier often told his beloved Luna Magnium Bristol that he was busy with work, for he foresaw all judgment from all sectors. The Baron was in charge of the Helios sector, the Magnum Hydrenian sector, the Meplian sector, and the Cougarlium sector. He also advised the great and powerful Partesium. So he had not been able to see his wife, the Baroness, for 3 whole weeks. However, that was a lie. Usually, his quarters in the Helios sector were closed and locked, but Luna had had enough. She missed her beloved Chandelier so much it hurt her chest. She remembered that they were always so happy together. She only had eyes for him, and him alone. Nothing could change the way she thought about him, and nobody could get in between them. Luna noticed she heard a noise from the royal chambers, and it was then she went to open the door. The Prime Baron told his wife he was busy advising the Partesium, so she assumed he wouldn't be back. The Prime Baron was a wealthy man. He got whatever he wanted. If he saw something he wanted, he would jump through hoops just to get it. He loved Luna, but did have one weakness: a woman who even remotely gave him any attention. It was no secret that many women wanted Chandelier just to use for his position of power, but his wife, Luna, loved him. Luna soon opens the door, and what she walks into sends her into madness. "Hello, dear, are you home early?" Luna Bristol asks as she walks into the royal chambers. To Luna's surprise, it is her husband with 3 women. They were all naked, making love with each other. Luna drops the glass she was carrying, for she is in shock. How could her beloved husband cheat on her? Her shock turns into sadness. Her sadness turns into anger. Her anger turns into rage, and her rage turns into tears. "By the great Hagar Citadel of New Earth, how dare you! You have been sleeping around with a strange woman. Not just 1, but 3. I have been worried about you, and all for nothing. You are a liar, and I just can't." Luna screamed at her husband. However, the Prime Baron did not care. He just looked emotionless and told her to join them. This sent her into more tears. She said she had to go. The Prime Baroness, Luna, was devastated and heartbroken. She was a woman who was always by her husband's side. She could not believe the Prime Baron, her own husband, had betrayed her in such a cruel way. Why did he lie about advising the Partesium? Her heart was broken and shattered to mere dust. The Prime Baron would never get to apologize to his beloved wife, for it was on this day he would contract the virus known as P2i-Q. Luna wanted Chandelier, the Prime Baron, to realize he had been caught in a lie and beg for forgiveness. She wanted him to see the pain in her eyes and realize to himself that he could not lie to her. She wanted so badly for him to be sorry and never do it again. But cheating on her was not his greatest sin. Chandelier sentenced people who had committed crimes against the partition. Whether it was upper or lower laws, he held a firm and stern hand. He often forgave offenses from the Helios and Magnum Hydrenian sector. However, people from the Cougarlium sector would spare nobody. Those who resided in the Cougarlium sector got the full extent of the law. The Prime Baron gave the death penalty to all who committed 3 offenses in a calendar year. Nobody was safe, and it didn't matter if you were a pregnant woman, a boy, a girl, or even an elderly person. If you were late paying taxes, still out after curfew, stole, cheated, or caught in an affair, these were all offenses. As Luna is running away, the 4 of them think they can continue this affair. But something flies into the room, breaking the door and putting a hole in the wall. "What was that?" a confused Prime Baron asks. It was Luna. She lay there lifeless. Her bones had bent backward and her neck snapped. The Prime Baron screams and screams for what had done this to his wife. Sure, he had cheated on her, but he just wanted to have some fun. Then he heard footsteps. To his dismay, it was the Morbus Impiorum Twins, both Serenity and Gunilios. Gunilios grabbed the Prime Baron using telekinesis, for he held the CRPA blood type. He soon infected Chandelier with the virus. Serenity used her pyrokinesis to burn the women, for even though Serenity was against violence, the 2 twins acted as one. They would die for each other, a beautiful bond that could not be broken. You could smell blood and fire in the air. I, Sherry Evans, and those who accompanied me after our escape from the Warden Stan Helios soon ran towards the Helios sector. It was then we saw it. You see, the virus was fast-acting. It took approximately 20 minutes to take the unfortunate soul who got infected. When I arrive, the Prime Baron is suffering. He had boils and blood-filled blisters on his body. He was gasping to breathe, but all in vain, for Darwin's rose was visible on his body. We saw the twins jump out the window and vanish. Commander Tamar had to inform the next in line in the power chain of what happened, so she called Norn Even Duexium. Soon the entire Even Duexium called for a Helios Duexium summons. It was a meeting where the leaders of power all came when one of them unexpectedly passed away. Their culprits were the Morbus Impiorum Twins and me, Sherry Evans. I would soon stand before what remained of the human race as the Partesium himself judged me. Chapter 6. The Voiceless Cry. You could hear the sound of boots hitting the pavement. Tap, tap, tap. A sound of marching in unison could be heard in the royal chambers of the late Prime Baron. Click, click, click. The sound of a formation could be heard through the walls. Then she enters the room. Annie Duexium was the Dominus Duexium. There were so many different powers in all 4 hierarchies of power. The natural order of power in the Hagar Citadel of New Earth was the Partesium, the Prime Baron, the Evon Duexium Senate, and the Helios Anigium. The Partesium led the Prime Baron, the Evon Duexium Senate, and the Helios Anigium. The word of the Partesium was final. He was the king, in a sense, and could create laws and govern society in his own vision, like human society was just clay. The Partesium was a single individual, and only someone who came from the Helios bloodline could hold this seat. Either the seed of a Helios or someone adopted into the bloodline. There were no subcategories of the Partesium. At the time of Prime Baron Chandelier's death was the second Partesium, Jared Helios. The Partesium ruled over all remaining human life and could sanction space voyages. All space travel outside the Citadel had to be sanctioned. If one did not get the approval seal of the Partesium before leaving the Citadel on a voyage, it was deemed a violation of space travel. Laws and Regulations was a book given to all citizens at the age of 5. It taught all knowledge of the laws of the city. Laws and violations of space travel resided in LR Section 3. LR stands for Laws and Regulations. After the Partesium, the Prime Baron was second in command. The only person who could direct the Prime Baron was the Partesium himself. Originally, all Partesiums and Great Barons had to be males. This was how it was because of the ideals of Justin Helios, the first Partesium. Justin Helios found the majority of women to be emotionally unstable. Until the year 2203, he allowed any gender to run for the seat, but they had to be of the Helios bloodline. The Prime Baron enforced all laws and chose the final judgment for all offenders. The Prime Baron enforced both upper and lower laws. Nobody was safe. All offenses, no matter the severity, were judged harshly. The Prime Baron advised the Partesium and controlled the Evon Duexium, which was the military and security force of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. The Evon Duexium was a group of 35 members who foresaw security and acted as the Citadel's military force for all 4 areas of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. The Evon Duexium had 3 various levels, which were the Dominus Evon Duexium, Maxilla Evon Duexium, and the Warden of Helios. The Dominus Evon Duexium ruled the entire 35 members of the Evon Duexium. The Dominus Evon Duexium had 3 members who led the entire group. The 3 current Dominus Evon Duexiums were Annie Evon Duexium, Amanda Evon Duexium, and Norn Evon Duexium. Beneath the Dominus Evon Duexium was Maxilla Evon Duexium, who had a total of 5 members who were led by the Dominus. The Maxilla Evon Duexium ruled the rest of the members. And finally, there was the Warden of Helios. The Warden controlled the prison in the Meplian sector. The Evon Duexium did daily patrols around the Citadel. From dusk to dawn, they made it their duty to protect all life. However, the group was corrupted by the Dominus Evon Duexium. Norn, Annie, and Amanda were all vile and twisted people. They held human life to no value. Leading the 3 of them was Annie Evon Duexium, my cousin. She was just as terrible as her late father, Danny Dibacorium. The final power of the hierarchy was the Helios Anigium. The Helios Anigium foresaw the development of technology, protection of sickness throughout the Citadel, and the study of ecology and new planets. The Helios Anigium worked with the Partesium and the Evon Duexium. How did this group work with the other powers? The Helios Anigium reported back to the Partesium on the study of new planets, since the Partesium was the only one who could sanction voyages. The Helios Anigium reported back to the Evon Duexius about lower laws being broken on the medical front. Selling of unsanctioned medicine without a medical license was under the LR Section 8, which was buying and selling regulations and laws. The Helios Anigium also worked with the Evon Duexium, for they created modern technology and oftentimes sold their new weapons to them. However, what made the Helios Anigium shine was its vast knowledge of medicine and its dedication to saving people. The Helios Anigium was full of doctors. I used to look up to the Helios Anigium. I even went to school and received training from a doctor who was part of the Helios Anigium. However, time would soon shed light on them. The masses of citizens in the Hagar Citadel were ravaged beasts. They needed someone to blame for the death of the Prime Baron. The Morbus Impiorum Twins and I would soon be judged by the Partesium himself. Since there was no Prime Baron, he would act in his place. The atmosphere was tense as I felt peering eyes at me. Who would be sentenced? Well, before that, let me tell you what happened, as Commander Tamar told Norn Evon Duexium what happened.
Commander Tamar, thanks for calling the Evon Duexium Senate. We will take point from here. I'm dedicated to finding the criminal who took the life of our precious Prime Baron and his beloved Baroness.
Norn even de Exium says as he enters the room. This man was fierce, and any room became quiet when he entered. A man with short black hair, a thick mustache, and black eyes. He was tall and was the oldest uncle of the Dibocrium sisters. The Dibocrium bloodline ran deep and had a hidden agenda. There were 3 families in space that held seats of power: Helios, Dibocrium, and Vrimnoger. Helios stood at the top of the elite bloodline of space. They infected everyone, and the people loved and cherished them. The Dibocrium bloodline was thought to be exiled, but the family changed their names to Evon du Exium. They were loved by citizens who had not been sentenced. They spared no citizen who was accused. The empathy in their hearts had been long erased. Most citizens in public loved the Evon de Exium Senate. However, behind closed doors, they hated them. The last family was the Vrimnoger bloodline. They were in a sector that the public knew nothing about. Their whereabouts were only known by 2 people in the history of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. They researched human evolution itself. Those who obtained the death penalty were sent here. In the very bowels of the Citadel, there was a sector that was below the Cougarlium sector. The only way one could reach here was with Darwin's rose, or if you possessed the CRP blood type gene. Jasper Victor Vrimnoger was a man that even the Particium was afraid of. A man who did inhumane experiments on people all in the name of science and biological growth to expand the human race. You see, Jasper had heard and witnessed tales of the Wayward, a place thought to be destroyed. He feared a tale his grandmother told him as a boy. The Vrimnogers thought the man called Sergio Webster would be the savior to save us all from doom, and their only goal was to create a body for this monster, to revive him. However, I later would hear of the tale of Vrimnoger. Norn smiled, and then the same smile quickly left his face.
I heard what you did, Sherry Evans. You will attend the great Helios Hall, and the great Particium will judge you. You know all sky jumpers believe they are above the law. However, justice will be served. You and those wicked twins will meet your fate.
So, it began.
I welcome all citizens to this trial of injustice. Our dearly beloved Prime Baron and Baroness have been murdered. But by what? It breaks my heart, my very soul, that my advisor and close friend meet the fate that all meet when up against this vile virus. I pray that the late chandelier finds peace in the afterlife. We are here to decide the fate of the twins and former captain, Sherry Evans. Do not fear, my friends, for the twins will not infect you. They are inside this box that not only protects you from the virus, but also prevents them from infecting you. We will judge these 3 individuals. Both will tell their stories, along with Jasper Vrimnoger, who caught the twins before they had doomed us all to the same fate as the former Prime Baron. In addition to supporting Sherry Evans, Commander Tamar will speak of her side of the story. I only wish to save you all against this virus, as it took the lives of many of our loved ones.
The Particium said to the entire Citadel. Thus, the trial, which lasted 4 hours, began. The Particium told me to give my account of the events that brought me here. So I, former captain and skyjumper, Sherry J. Evans, told my story. This would be a story that started 8 months ago, and also the last time I embraced or even saw my husband, Alexander Quinton Evans. My husband was a skyjumper for the Citadel. Skyjumpers explored the vast expanse of space and often fixed the exterior of the Citadel. Skyjumpers were to find any issues with the ship, fix the great Hagar Citadel of New Earth, and scout to see if we had any enemies on the horizon. In addition, skyjumpers sought unfamiliar places to mine resources. However, they did not serve any one group. They were independent contractors who reported straight to the Particium. My husband Alexander taught me everything I knew and trained me to be a skyjumper. Being a skyjumper was no easy task, but it paid well. The training was physically taxing, so I trained for 4 months to become an official sky jumper. Day in and out, I had to train my body to pass its limits. The training was vigorous and challenging, for I still dealt with my vertigo and other autoimmune illnesses. But I soon would be an official sky jumper. I was also a captain on the spacecraft called the R640P Magnum Opus. It was here I led a crew of 69 members, and we flew into space. My crimes soon caught up to me. I violated LR Chapter 3, Section B, which stated that harboring escaped or known fugitives, criminals, and people from the Cougaralium camp, which was part of the Cougarlium sector, and using a spacecraft that wasn't approved by the Partesium was a capital crime. You see, I wanted to find my husband, who had left on a voyage to the mining planet MapCore 7. MapCore 7 was a planet we established in 2202 that had rocks, minerals, and other materials we used to fix the Citadel's ship and reinforce its exterior. Alexander was certain that there was water on this planet, so the Partesium sanctioned his departure for up to 2 months. That was the last time I saw my husband. However, I left the Citadel to find him months later and got denied by the Partesium, for he said I was needed in the Evon Dexium Senate instead. I couldn't wait. I needed to go. I knew of the consequences, but love trumps all. The day I left, I saw 2 women fleeing, and they asked if I could let them onto my ship, so I let them on, and we soon vanished into space. The woman I saved eventually took escape pods to MapCore 7, for they knew their lives on the Citadel were over. When I went back to the Citadel, I was greeted by Commander Tamar, who soon arrested me. When I went to the mining planet, MapCore 7, it was here I witnessed the Partesium's greatest sin. Here laid secrets and inhumane violations. I always thought I knew how the Hagar Citadel of New Earth was, but inside this planet's depths, we learned of the horrors that mankind was capable of. It was for this very reason I came back to the Citadel. I hoped to free people by telling them the truth, but I was arrested before I could do so. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, I soared through the void of space. I knew I had violated space travel laws according to the LR Chapter 3, Section B. However, I had to find my husband. You see, every single spacecraft had a geolocator in its vessel. This was said to be just in case a ship was intercepted by an enemy starship, spacecraft, or vessel. I took the R640P Magnum Opus and soared into space. I was a seasoned sky jumper and captain. I had explored numerous zones, planets, and sectors that the Partesium controlled. In my heart, I was an adventurer who wanted to discover uncharted planets and even alien civilizations. My insatiable curiosity, thirst for the unknown, fear of what happened to my husband, and dreams of adventure led me to the mining planet called MapCore 7. I tracked down strange logs and the geolocation of my husband's vessel, which was called the F9CJ Germondier Magnius, which was a small vessel that was used by pilots and sky jumpers to find resources on the surface of a planet. It was on this fateful day I learned of the horrors the Partesium was hiding. My sensors on my vessel detected a peculiar anomaly on the outskirts of the Citadel about 50 kilometers south, and I picked up an audio log. I later found out that the Citadel jammed all connections outside 30 kilometers of its Citadel. The audio log went as follows.
Hello, mankind. I am sky jumper Alexander Quinton Evans. I was sent on a sanctioned expedition by the Partesium himself. I have landed on the planet MapCore 7. At first glance, this planet is similar to Earth. The air is breathable without a spacesuit, but its surface's water is made up of acidic liquid, which burns straight through most material. I will have to document my findings and send them to the Partesium himself. I hope to find more materials to aid in the reinforcement of the Citadel. This is Log 1, and I go now to explore this planet. Hello, mankind. I am sky jumper Alexander Quinton Evans. This is my second log, and I have found a cave. This planet is absolutely amazing, and its beauty is unmatched. As I descend to the caverns and caves, I can see swirling clouds of the nebula itself. The waters bathed in a soft glow of an ethereal blue and green. The water in this cave is drinkable, and I feel instantly restored by just drinking it. I will be monitoring my vitals as I continue down this adventure. I am excited to find out more about this planet. I am just honored that the Great Partesium has sanctioned this voyage. I am going to rest until tomorrow. I cannot wait for what awaits me here. Hello, mankind. I am Skyjumper Alexander Quinton Evans. This is my third log, and I have found a door inside the cave. It is alarming, for I hear voices crying out to me. Pictures on the cavern's walls depict a story of a great battle. A woman, maybe a mother, another woman who is attacking a child, and a child with wings. This is unsettling, but I am still excited for what is behind the door. The door is magnificent. I won't describe it, but only if you could see it. Hello, mankind. I am Alexander Evans. I am tired from running. What was behind the door? Savage beasts were lurking, and I am running out of time. On the surface, the air is breathable, but behind this door, toxic fumes are in the air. I found a man trapped in a box with a small slit he could view out of. The man had long hair and had dirt about him. He was connected to a strange device that had a glowing yellow stone. It was here I found some man doing experiments on him. He told me that humans needed to evolve and that we were too weak. His name was Vrimnoger. Whatever you do, don't go through this door. I'm sure he is experimenting on actual people. These people have purple veins and flowers coming out of their bodies. Boils made of blood, blisters, and other disfigurations could be seen on them. I fear I won't make it off MapCore 7. To my loving wife, Sherry Evans, if you ever hear this, do not land on this planet. Hello, mankind. I am Alexander Evans. Vrimnoger told me I could not leave this planet and that he had to test my blood. He said he came from the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. I quickly left to the surface, but I heard footsteps approaching. Please, if the Partesium can hear this message, send help. I am scared. I am alone. I have lost hope. My vessel, the F9CJ Germondier, is within sight. I go now to leave this planet. Until we are united, this is goodbye.
As I heard this audio log from my husband, I plotted a course to land on MapCore 7. When I landed on this planet, the woman who had left with me told me they would stay on this planet, for they would certainly be executed if they went back to the Citadel. I agreed, but some days I wonder if I sent them to their graves. The planet was just as my husband described. A beautiful planet with caves and caverns that would leave you shocked. The water of these caves was an ethereal blue and green. However, the surface and what lay below were two different experiences. On the surface, the water was not drinkable, and the plants were beautiful and colorful. I'm talking blue, purple, yellow, and even red. There were no signs of life until I ventured to the planet's bowels. I saw the notes my husband left. When I eventually reached the same door my husband went through, it was there I saw it. People locked in cages, screaming for help. They kept begging the Partesium to release them from their fate. I was shocked, but it was then I saw a note my husband left me. He told me that a man with the last name Vrimnoger was planning something vile. It was then I connected the dots. The powers of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth were sacrificing people to experiment on them. The people had a right to know, and if I made it out alive, I would tell the people the truth of my adventure to MapCore 7. However, now all the evidence I had through saved recordings and notes had been confiscated by the Helios soldiers. As I finish my tale of what happened during my unsanctioned voyage, I tell the Partesium about how the twins attacked the Helios soldiers, Commander Tamar and me. I tell of our escape from the halls of adjacent Crowned Magnius, which was inside the Meplean sector's prison. Finally, seeing the infected late Prime Baron. The people heard this, and there was a divide. Some thought I was making this up, for they only saw the Partesium as a beloved heroic figure. There was no way in their minds that their leader was doing this to people. They had so many questions, specifically, who was this Vrimnoger person? However, some people started to shout and scream because this was insane. The trial soon continued as Commander Tamar told the Partesium about her thoughts and accounts of the whole ordeal. Commander Tamar spoke, and this account would shift the tides temporarily in my favor.
Great Partesium, I have witnessed the journey of former Captain Evans, and at first I thought she was a criminal too. Criminals will say anything to get out of the justice of our system. However, when we were attacked by the twins, everything changed, and after that, the twins infected my own soldier. I had known him for years, and the prison we were inside became infected. Most soldiers here caught the virus known as the P2i-Q Virus. A young man I had seen grow from timid to an excellent soldier passed away from the virus. It is a gruesome illness. I am talking about blood boils, blisters, and extreme pain. I saw him trying to gasp for oxygen as this illness took him. We were soon able to flee after Sherry Evans persuaded Gunilios to leave. Even after being accused of criminal activity, she saved my life. I had subdued the girl's serenity, but Gunilios used some strange magic. Or maybe it was fear of contracting the virus, and soon he shot me with my own non-lethal weapon. When they vanished, we soon tried to escape, for the late Prime Baron ordered a trial for Sherry Evans. We were soon stalked and almost died at the hands of the Warden of Helios, Stan Helios, a wicked man who thought we were just his prey. He had seen my uniform and didn't even ask me to identify myself. It was Sherry Evans who helped us escape along with the others. I am not sure why they were detained, but I can't overlook the fact that Stan Helios is corrupt and did inhumane things to his prisoners. I'm not sure how Sherry Evans did it, but she used fire to get rid of both the infected, and later, we jumped out from the first floor of that prison till we made it to the royal chambers of the Prime Baron, where we saw him passing away. We even saw the twins jump out the window as soon as we arrived.
Commander Tamar says, and by this time the citizens were in an uproar, for the powers were just vile and inhumane. How could they trust them? The words of Commander Tamar and I swayed their hearts, and the Partesium knew of it. However, he was not afraid. Soon he spoke, before letting the twins tell their story.
My dear friends, no, you are all like family to me, for when one of you suffers, I do too. So to my family, my esteemed brothers and sisters, and fellow citizens of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth, I am appalled. You see, Sherry Evans and Commander Tamar have voiced their accounts, and you all see me as a monster. I am no monster, for I have people in charge of various parts of this beautiful citadel. The first Partesium founded this new home of ours. We have all separated from the tyranny of Danny Dibocrium. First Partesium, Justin Helios has left this grand last bastion of mankind in my hands. No place is perfect, but I am here to protect you all. There may be corruption in Hagar's walls, but I am devoted to solving this and leading us to the surface of a planet we can call ours. No doubt Sherry Evans knew that breaking a law would land her here, but she didn't hesitate. I did not sanction her voyage, for her husband was en route to the Citadel, and I knew that the duties of a captain were demanding. She overworks herself, and due to her constant vertigo spells, she often becomes ill. I care about all the Citadel's residents. However, a crime of that magnitude cannot be overlooked. Illegal traveling on unsanctioned voyages could be looked past, for in the past she had no prior violations and always upheld the duties of captain and sky jumper. I was even going to release the parents of Sherry Evans as a sign of good faith that she would steer them in the right directions. Even now I have the papers in my possession. However, harboring criminals is an offense that surpasses the greatest upper laws, and I cannot turn a blind eye. What if these criminals had killed your parents, kidnapped your children, made an explosion, and destroyed part of a sector, or even worse, carried the virus? I must hold the standards of these laws. We cannot be governed by emotion. These laws and regulations are here to create a better society. The first Partesium created these laws, for he did not want a society like Danny Dibocrium had created. It pains me that she was willing to put all of that in jeopardy for a missing loved one who was already safe at home. A doctor called Jasper Victor Vrimniger exists in our Citadel and has knowledge and expertise. I send him on voyages once a year to collect data and help us progress and gain better knowledge of medicine. He wasn't chasing down Alexander Quintin Evans, he was saving that man from dehydration. No doubt this was just a ploy to turn you all against me, and I understand. But let it be known the words of the Particium will be obeyed with no question. Those who are found endangering our beautiful society will be punished to the full extent of the law. Mutinity, defamation of character, lies, and deceit only cause chaos, especially if it has no basis or evidence. I am on the verge of solving the issue of a cure for this virus. Either you stand with me, and we can venture off to freedom, peace, and love, or you end up alone and imprisoned. I have the support of the Helios family, for I stand at the top of that bloodline. I have the support of the even Duexium bloodline, for we forged a bond through hardships. Citizens of the Cougalium sector know me because I go down to that sector once a week. I can relate to your issues. I am here for you all. Never question my love for you all. Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, and fellow citizens of New Earth, today I, the second Particium Jared Helios, stand before you not as a leader of tyranny, but as a friend. I stand before you not as an individual, but as a humble advocate for the timeless values that bind us together, the values of the 20 Helios principles. Remember these values. 1. I will not harm a soul for greed. 2. I will show compassion and mercy to all. 3. Treat all with respect, regardless of their status. 4. No sector is greater than another. 5. I will steer my offspring to live out the great Helios principles. 6. I will not harm a single citizen of the Hagar Citadel of New Earth. 7. If I have an issue with another, I will go to the powers of Helios. 8. I will not lie or cheat and will always be fair. 9. I will obey all laws, not for the Particium, but to create a better society where love and peace are above all. 10. All fellow citizens are my family. 11. I will not judge another. 12. I will obey all upper laws. 13. I will obey all lower laws. 14. I will not kill another. 15. Together we stand stronger, never divided. 16. I will help all in need, as long as it doesn't violate laws and regulations. 17. I will learn the values of not only the Citadel, but of the families. 18. I strive to be the best version of myself every day. 19. I will not sleep with anyone who is not mine's to be with. 20. I will find a new world with my family and support the Particium until I die. In a world often filled with challenges and uncertainties, it is crucial for us to embrace these 20 principles as it guides us to a better, brighter, and harmonious future. Peace is not merely the absence of conflict, it is a state of collective tranquility that arises when we choose understanding over ignorance, empathy over apathy, love over greed, integrity over deceit, dialogue over discord, and light over darkness. Let us remember that regardless of our differences, we share a common humanity that transcends borders, sections, status, beliefs, and backgrounds. Whether you are young or old, male or female, black or white, Asian or German, African or Polish, similar or different, tall or short, skinny or average or plump, stable or traumatized, in times of adversity, it's our unity that becomes our greatest strength. Love, in its purest form, is a force that knows no boundaries. Love is unconditional and always a light at the end of the tunnel. Love has the power to heal wounds, bridge divides, and create bonds that endure to the test of time. Love is not a passive emotion, but an active choice. A choice to respect, appreciate, and uplift one another. I love you all, and I pray I am deserving of your love. Love is the cornerstone of compassion, the very foundation upon which we can build a world that thrives on acceptance and understanding not only today, but forever. As we navigate the complexities of our interconnected world, let us reaffirm our commitment to staying united with peace and love. In the very face of adversity, let us choose understanding over prejudice, kindness over animosity, and collaboration over isolation. Our shared destiny is intertwined, and the challenges we face can only be overcome when we stand tall, stand united, stand shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand. It is easy to succumb to the divisive forces that seek only to drive wedges between us, but let us be the architects of a different narrative. Let us create a narrative of love, peace, harmony, and unity. Let our actions mean something. Let our actions speak volumes through space and time, and let our unity be a testament to the enduring strength of mankind. In the words of the first particium, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Let our unity define us today so that generations from now, our offspring can know what true love is. Let that very love echo throughout the ages as a timeless truth. We, as humanity, never gave up hope. We forgave all who sought darkness. Let us start anew. Let us remind the very universe that our collective journey toward the light begins with individual choices. The choices we make in our homes, our sectors, and in the tapestry of mankind. So, let us stand together, stand tall against adversity, united by the common threads of peace and love. Let us be beacons of hope, radiating warmth in the face of adversity. Together, we can build a world where the ideals of peace and love are not distant aspirations, but lived realities. Thank you to every individual here, and may the will of light guide our very steps on this shared journey.
As the partisium said this, the entire Citadel cheered for him, and I felt that his words swayed the entire universe itself. Whatever feelings we had instilled in the hearts of the people. It did not matter, for on this day, after his speech, the entire human race was united by this speech. The partisium made a change. He even introduced the world to Dr. Jasper Victor Vrimnoger, who only helped advance medicine through science and exploration, or so we were told. The partisium claimed he knew nothing about the evils the twins underwent and made it a law that they would be treated with passion. He sent the twins to a new sector which was called Vinegar Coliseum, a place where they could live normal lives on the surface, not caged but had beds, showers, a yard for them to play in, a library, and even a pool. The days of their capture were no more, or so we, the people, thought. As for me, the partisium forgave me of my crimes, and I became a captain again. The only thing I had to do was visit the twins at the Vinegar Coliseum. Jared Helios, the second partisium, even reunited me with my husband. Finally, the partisium forgave the crimes of all who did not murder anyone. They had a clean slate. I felt this was the beginning of change. My hardships vanished, but that peace was only a lie, and soon carnage would begin. This speech was a voiceless cry of what should have been. Humanity was going down a spiral, but who would restore actual peace? In my head, I had so many questions, like who the man my husband found on MapCore 7 was. Would the partisium have done this if I hadn't told the citizens of the stuff I found on the mining planet? No one could be sure, but only darkness would follow me as I would be swallowed by the legacy of the Helios and Vrimnoger bloodline.